So this is OfficeMalScanner is a tool that I came across when we needed to analyze some malicious, rich text files actually that got emailed in some of our users. It's a Windows-based tool. I believe you can run it in Wine. I think a lot of people do. But you know, unfortunately, I think most of us find out about malicious attachments because our user emailed us this Word document and said, I couldn't get this to open, it acted really weird. Could you tell me if it's okay? Right? So OfficeMalScanner will let you do that. It will let you pull apart doc files, doc and docx, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., etc., etc. So what this talk is a quick overview. This talk and this tool, the way I use this tool is like if you had a really hardcore sports car and you only ever used it to drive to the grocery store and back. So I want you to know up front, I'm not going to be doing a real deep dive here. We're going to talk a little bit about what it can do, a little bit about what you'll see when you use it. But what I'm not going to be doing is a lot of shell code analysis or anything super crazy like that.
What? Are you kidding?
Get out, Corey. So if you have a ton of time, if you just really get your jollies doing shellcode analysis, you are going to have a lot of fun with this tool. If you don't do shellcode analysis, if that doesn't tickle your nerd funny bone, you'll still get a lot of use out of this tool. So for those of you who are a little bit new to analyzing malicious documents, you're probably going to want to do this in a virtual machine. Because even if you are the most security-minded person, you are at some point in your career going to accidentally click shit. And unfortunately, if you're doing that on your live workstation, you're going to have a bad time.
It never happens.
No, it never happens. Second of all, if your tinfoil hat doesn't fit so tightly that you don't believe that your organization is being targeted specifically, you need to get refitted for a tinfoil hat. So, you know, if you open up one of these documents, even if it's in a virtual machine, and it phones home and says, hey, one of your victims just opened up a document, that's also bad. The other thing is, if you've got virtual machines and you've got the ability to analyze documents offline, it also keeps you from uploading to places like VirusTotal and tipping your hand that way. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. There's going to be a lot of growth there. So finally, it's pretty hard to not MD5 sum files that get sent to you, so do that. Search on the MD5 sum value, the checksum value, rather than uploading the document to VirusTotal or malware.com or Anubis or any of those other places. Always try to search on that MD5 or whatever checksum you prefer first. So a little bit about OfficeMalScanner. It's available at reconstructor.org. The guy that wrote it is a genius. He also speaks German as a first language, so there's a little bit of awkwardness there with the syntax and diction there. It does run in Windows. Something to be aware of, for some reason he hasn't updated his site in a while. He hasn't updated the tool in about a year. The version that's available from the code page, he has a link called code, that's a little bit out of date. You want to go to the, the one on the about page is out of date. About page is newer, code page is out of date. Can't read my notes. So inside the tool itself, there's a couple of DLL files that allow you to do some things, but the four main tools are DisView, which is just a really lightweight disassembler. If you have a value where you know that the shellcode starts, you can pipe that into DisView and it will barf out shellcode for you. Malhost setup will actually carve the shellcode out of the document itself and put it in an executable. If you don't get the starting location correct, there's a really good chance that shellcode won't execute properly, but you can still get some analysis value out of that, even if it dies. OfficeMalScanner, that's what we're primarily going to be using today, and RTF scan. So OfficeMalScanner can't scan RTF files on its own, and I'll show you in a minute how it will tell you, oh, this is an RTF file, I can't scan it, kicks you over to RTF scan. So the options, you can feed it PowerPoint, Word docs, Excel files. Scan will just do heuristics, tell you, I think this file might be malicious, and it gives you a score, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. Info will dump OLE structures. Inflate is really handy when you're dealing with newer Office docs, which you're going to see a lot. OfficeMalScanner by itself can't analyze docx, PPTX, etc. So you've got to inflate them, and then the cool part is you can just dig through the files, and they're actually a little bit easier to pull apart. Brute, if you think there's encrypted stuff in there, and debug is just a noisier version of what you were doing before. So I'm going to jump out and do a couple of demos. Lovely. Excuse me. Okay, this is going to be a little difficult to do one-handed, but I'll do my best. So the first one, tab complete command. So first of all, I'll show you what it does if you don't give it an option. It just says, "Hey dummy, you didn't tell me what to do." But the cool part is the scoring. If you don't use anything else for this, the scoring is really handy. So every time it finds an executable, that's 20 points. Code, excuse me, shellcode in general is 10 points. Strings and OLE objects, they're sketchy, but maybe not as sketchy as the other two, so they don't score quite as highly. All right, so here we go. It's pretty exciting stuff. I'm just going to scan, and it says, "Hey, you can't read that. RTF file format detected, please use the RTF scan." So we'll do that. Should those types of things exist in an RTF file? Probably not. This file also contains overlay data, which is unusual for legitimate RTF files. Also, it makes it exceedingly difficult to pull anything useful out of the doc, for me at least. But you'll also see that it said, "Hey, I found some interesting stuff. I'm going to dump it out of this binary file." If we take a look at that file, and I apologize, I have dump it into a hex editor. This doesn't do anything helpful for me, but I'm going to show you one in a minute where you are going to look and go, "Oh, I maybe gleaned some helpful information out of that." So let's do this again. So example 2.doc seems to be malicious. It only got 10 points. I would still call this malicious, though. I wouldn't just send it back to your user and go, it was a low score. I downloaded a whole zip file of samples added from Contagiodump to develop these examples, and there were quite a few in that folder that this tool didn't score as threatening at all. But if it came from Contagiodump, I'm not opening it. So I wouldn't call this the be-all end-all, but it is a good first step. I think this is the good one. So check it out. It went through the file. It found an embedded. You guys, can you see it? Yeah. It found an embedded Flash file, which it dumped to a Flash document there. And if we look at it, I don't have nearly enough room on the screen. Anyway, if I brought it up in a hex editor, you would see in the header information that it is actually a Shockwave Flash file. That, if you don't have a way to analyze it in-house, A, assume it's malicious, B, you can probably upload it to Fugett and get a little bit better of an idea of what's going on with it. So I have one more. So, okay, this time it was a PowerPoint file. Obviously, it's found all sorts of bad stuff. That's one of the higher scores that I saw when I was looking at these documents. So that would give me a few next steps to have a look at and say, this is something we need to be blocking. We need to pull out of people's mailboxes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just kind of how it works. It's pretty easy to use, and even if you never get into the shellcode analysis side of it, you're still going to get a lot of use out of this tool. So some useful links. Lenny Zeltzer does a cheat sheet that mentions this tool specifically, and I can post these links out to the SecKC wiki later. There's another how-to on extracting Visual Basic macros. And then if you want documents to try out, Contagion.dump's the place to go. You will have to email her to get the password schema because it changes, but it's worth a while, and she actually responds really quickly, so I would go ahead and email her and do that. But keep in mind, every single thing you download from that site is evil, so don't click ship. All right, thank you.